Beyond the Open Door: Why Equity Demands More Than Just Entry. Welcome to the Pink Parachute Diaries, where we amplify the voices of Black women making waves in their fields. I'm honored to share insights from my recent interview with Afiya Turner, a revolutionary force in equity work whose unflinching research and advocacy have fundamentally challenged how we understand progress for Black professionals. Afiya isn't just documenting barriers, she's dismantling them, creating pathways where none existed before, and forcing institutions to confront uncomfortable truths about their so called diversity efforts. Her work has transformed how entire industries approach equity, moving them beyond performative gestures toward meaningful, sustainable change. What struck me most in my conversation with Afiya was her ability to articulate a truth many of us have felt but struggled to name: the journey toward equity doesn't end when you get your foot in the door. In fact, that's often just the beginning of a new, more insidious set of challenges. We've all heard the narrative that suggests once you've made it into an industry or reached a certain career milestone, the playing field somehow magically levels out. Get the degree, land the job, work hard, and the rest will follow naturally. But Afia's research and lived experience tell a different story, one that challenges this comfortable assumption at its core. The data is startlingly clear and frankly disturbing. A recent study from Aston University surveyed 164 Black mid career television professionals in the UK. The findings: an overwhelming 92% reported experiencing prejudice or discrimination even after establishing themselves in their careers. These weren't newcomers struggling to break it in, these were accomplished professionals who had already proven their worth, yet still faced systemic barriers to advancement. What's particularly troubling about these findings is that many respondents view diversity efforts within their organizations as merely performative rather than genuinely transformative. The initiatives looked good on paper, generated positive PR, but failed to address the deeper structural issues that prevented true equity. They were, in essence, diversity theater. I'll show no substance. This insight from Afiya fundamentally challenges how we think about progress. It's not enough to celebrate increased representation at entry level if those same individuals hit a ceiling midway through their careers. True equity requires sustained commitment at every stage of the professional journey. Let me share three key insights from my conversation with Afiya that I believe are essential for anyone committed to creating genuine change. First, barriers don't disappear with seniority. In fact, they often become more subtle and therefore more difficult to address. Progress for Black professionals requires more than just opening doors. It demands sustained commitment to equity and real change at every level of an organization. The Black in Focus report that Afiya referenced reveals how these barriers manifest in the television industry. Despite diversity initiatives, Black professionals reported a persistent lack of genuine progression opportunities. The solutions recommended weren't simple fixes, but structural changes, targeted mid career support programs, transforming how stories are commissioned to amplify authentic voices, and implementing stronger policies against racism and bullying. What makes this report particularly powerful is that it was the first of its kind to capture the lived realities of established Black talent in the industry. It wasn't just anecdotal evidence, but data driven research that influenced policy recommendations within major broadcasters. The company, Black Leaders in TV, was founded specifically to champion representation gaps after recognizing stalled progress among established talent. This matters because it exposes a painful truth. Many organizations are willing to bring diverse talent in the door, but not willing to transform the culture, systems, and power structures that determine who advances and who remains stuck. It's like being invited to a party but never being asked to dance. You're present but not truly included. The second key insight from Afiya is that peer networks and community matter profoundly. Engaging in peer to peer learning and building supportive networks are crucial for navigating the unique challenges Black professionals face in driving business growth. The U.S. Black Chamber's National Conference, themed Power, Policy, and Prosperity, exemplifies this approach. This annual gathering convenes business leaders and entrepreneurs nationwide to address challenges like limited access to capital and networks while breaking through long standing systemic barriers in entrepreneurship and economic opportunity. What makes this conference transformative, according to Afiya, is its focus on practical solutions, peer to peer learning sessions, mentorship from experienced leaders, and advocacy training focused on influencing policy affecting minority owned businesses. Participants gain actionable strategies for scaling businesses and increasing visibility while contributing to broader economic transformation efforts. The USBC was created 16 years ago specifically due to underrepresentation and lack of resources available for Black owned enterprises nationally. Today, its annual conference has become a hub for sharing best practices and network building among thousands of entrepreneurs and leaders nationwide. The impact has been a strengthened ecosystem supporting sustainable growth and success for new generations of Black business owners. This example illuminates something profound. In the face of systemic barriers, community becomes not just a source of support, but a strategic advantage. When traditional pathways to advancement are blocked, collective action creates alternative routes forward. It's not just about surviving in hostile environments. It's about creating spaces where Black professionals can truly thrive. The third insight Afia emphasized is perhaps the most profound. Representation isn't enough without power. Having a seat at the table must come with influence over policy, storytelling, and decision making to ensure lasting impact on industries and communities. This truth becomes painfully evident when we look at homeownership data in America. Home Mortgage Disclosure Act analysis reveals that potential Black home buyers face a national denial rate nearly twice as high as other applicants, 19% versus 11%. This disparity persists even amid rising home ownership rates overall and is primarily due to credit record disparities, not simply income related factors. What's particularly troubling about this example is that it illustrates how systemic inequities continue impacting professional and economic mobility pathways across sectors. The gap persists despite decade long improvements in ownership rates, a testament both to the resilience of aspiring buyers and the entrenched obstacles they face throughout application processes. Civic advocacy groups have responded by pushing lenders and government agencies toward fair lending practices while offering financial literacy resources tailored specifically toward marginalized communities. But sustained attention has revealed the need for deeper structural reform beyond surface level interventions. This example sheds light on intersectional issues surrounding wealth building and home ownership that are critical, not only professionally, but generationally within many families and businesses. It's a vivid illustration of why representation without decision making power fails to create lasting change. As Afia pointed out in our interview, these barriers don't exist in isolation. They are interconnected challenges that require holistic solutions. The persistence of these obstacles, even at advanced career stages, challenges the narrative that progress is being made uniformly across all career levels. What's particularly powerful about Afia's approach is her refusal to stop at identifying problems. She consistently points towards solutions that have shown real promise. The recommendations from the Black in Focus report led to industry wide discussions about meaningful inclusion beyond entry level hires. The USBC conference has created a sustainable ecosystem for Black entrepreneurs to thrive through community support and strategic advocacy. These examples demonstrate that change is possible when we move beyond performative diversity to address structural barriers. But they also highlight how much work remains to be done. The reality is that many diversity initiatives focus exclusively on recruitment, getting people in the door, while neglecting the equally important work of retention, advancement, and creating truly inclusive cultures where everyone can thrive. As Afiya emphasized, we need to shift our metrics of success from simply counting heads to ensuring those individuals have the support, resources, and opportunities to advance to positions of genuine influence. This isn't just about fairness, though, that would be reason enough. It's also about effectiveness. Organizations that fail to nurture and promote diverse talent at all levels are missing out on the full spectrum of perspectives, experiences, and insights that drive innovation and growth. Consider the television industry example again. When Black professionals hit a ceiling mid career, it doesn't just harm those individuals, it impacts the stories that get told, the perspectives that shape our culture, and ultimately the richness of our shared narrative. The same is true across sectors, from finance to technology to healthcare. What makes Afia's work so valuable is her insistence on looking beyond surface level metrics to examine the lived experiences of Black professionals throughout their careers. By gathering data and amplifying voices that might otherwise go unheard, she's helping to create a more complete picture of both the challenges and potential solutions. The path forward requires commitment at multiple levels. Organizations must move beyond performative diversity to create cultures of genuine inclusion and advancement. Industry leaders must recognize that opening doors is only the beginning of the work, not its conclusion. And individuals must continue to build networks of support and advocacy that can drive systemic change. So I challenge you today, how will you use your voice or your platform to ensure that opportunities created today translate into true equity tomorrow? Will you be satisfied with surface level diversity that maintains existing power structures? Or will you push for the deeper, more uncomfortable changes that true equity demands? The work of dismantling barriers doesn't end at the threshold. In many ways, that's where it truly begins. Opening doors is necessary but insufficient. We must transform what lies beyond those doors, the culture, systems, and power structures that determine who advances and who remains stuck. This isn't someone else's problem to solve. It's a collective responsibility that requires courage, commitment, and sustained action from each of us. Whether you lead an organization or are just beginning your career, you have the power to challenge performative inclusion and push for meaningful change. The question isn't whether we can create more equitable systems. Afia's work shows that we can. The question is whether we have the courage to move beyond comfortable half measures toward the deeper transformation that justice demands. What step will you take today?